This shit means something to me, man.
The chapter begins and Yuji, like the rest of us, is scared shitless that Mahoraga has adapted to Infinite Void, while Mimi and Choso are explaining Mahoraga. Once again, Mahoraga is the strongest known Shikigami of the Zenin clan's 10 shadow technique that can adapt to any and all phenomenon, just like the way you can adapt to these nuts in your mouth.
I beg your pardon?
We then see Sukuna being able to move since Gojo's domain was shattered, but Gojo sees through Sukuna. He notices someone else was affected by the Infinite Void's sure hit effect.
Are you sure about that?
And it definitely wasn't Sukuna. But it wasn't Mahoraga either. It was actually Megumi's soul. Instead of taking the hit like a man, the fraud made Megumi take it instead. So what really happened was that, as we all noticed throughout the fight of the last 2 domain clashes, Sukuna was only using his own techniques. He didn't use any of the stolen, 10 shadows, because he had Megumi's soul activate the 10 shadows adaptation technique, which means he couldn't use it at the same time and had to solely depend on his own technique throughout. Gojo goes on to say, Megumi's soul is still in the process of adapting. Therefore, if he opened Infinite Void again, Sukuna wouldn't be able to summon Daddy Mahoraga to save his fraudulent ass, because he would just vaporize Mahoraga in one blast. And as Idon wanted to finally put Sukuna to rest, Sukuna laughs and says, "You can no longer open your domain, ho ass." This right here is where the tears started rolling down, because we see a good chunk of blood come out of Gojo's nose. The reason he is bleeding and what actually happened here was he was using reverse cause technique to heal an exhausted innate technique. Look at Sukuna hitting the Rashford emote, like the same shit won't happen to him. Choso further adds that due to the amount of times he had cheated his exhaustion, he should already be at death's door, and he has opened his domain 5 times. And we all know Sukuna has far higher cursed energy reserves than Gojo. It allows him to open his domain expansion more times. He was actually at the advantage here. And also he had used reverse curse technique to restore his technique way less than Gojo. So he was actually supposed to be okay. Here he starts to talk a lot of This is someone who just almost died to Gojo, by the way. And since Sukuna has far higher cursed energy reserves, he had also used reverse curse technique less than Gojo. He says, "You have reached your limit. You've reached a limit completely different from healing your flesh and bones. If you get mind, open another domain. You go die sharp. Now see I go open another domain and I go make sure say I close the barrier so that you no fit go anywhere. You were born in an era without me," he says, "and you were hailed as the strongest, and you turned out to be this ordinary. This is goodbye." It was here that I almost shit myself, because I was hiding from my boss at work while reading this. But immediately he says domain expansion, his shrine actually malfunctions and crumbles. Once again, we see Gojo's superiority. Now, even though Sukuna got hit for just a brief moment back in the domain clash, his brain actually sustained damage to the point where he can't use his domain any longer. Gojo laughs and says, "My students are watching right now, so I'm going to keep showing off." Then he pulls Sukuna in, and this chapter ends with a mean right hook from Gojo.